Morning, everybody. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes for folks to join. Thanks for hopping in. Good morning, Arna. It's a great morning,
So,
actually.
yeah, happy days for every Joby shareholders today. Absolutely.
Yeah, even though it's we don't always talk so much the specifics of the stock. Obviously, a warm response from the market, we could say, with this morning's push to was double digits for a second, but yeah, great to see.
Yeah, and lots of topics to cover here, starting with the Q1 2025 highlights.
Yes, yes. So in terms of the call yesterday, I think it was kind of a tale of two worlds. If you've been paying attention to what's been happening, not necessarily behind the scenes, but through some of the flight tracking and registration of new aircrafts, some of the things that everybody here in the Joby community has been posting about. I don't think there was any big surprises. Just some more clarifications. And but otherwise, if you hadn't been watching Joby, obviously you saw all the progress, and it's hard to deny, right? You've got the pilot on board through hover to transition and back. Posting videos about flights where they're turning off the motors on purpose to test things, some of the actuators that control some of the flight services, turning off the battery packs. So extremely positive work there. And actually this morning, just for everybody's takeaway, I think from this space is I do recommend that you watch the video that Joby put out, where you can actually listen to Buddy Denham fly, but in the cockpit, hear all of his call outs, etc. Is very telling, just to see how far into this you can't watch that and not be really excited and bullish about what the next little bit of time will be for Joby. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, just to be a little bit of devil's advocate here. I mean, the one thing that I did notice was the talk about the start in Dubai, that they did not kind of fully disclose the go-to market, but more declared it like testing with a number of aircraft. So that's something where we'll have to see how quick the launch and then the ramp up and the scaling is going to be. That's the only pinch of salt here from my side. That the statements made were pretty careful at this moment in time.
Certainly, and I think from my side, where what I see with that is, they're playing a fine line, and if we just zoom out a little bit to and even Jobin called it out, it was only 10 weeks since the last call. They're going to be protective of this thing, but even since that call, all these videos, they can't come out and say exactly when. I'm sure there's probably agreements even in Dubai, because there was some talk from GCAA of regulators saying putting a timeline on it, but then they were coming to visit Marina. Bonnie was flying there to see them. I think everybody's just being very protective, of what is ahead. I think, and I'm with you. I think it's definitely a reasonable check on some of the context that they gave or didn't give. But I think also the market's response, which has been pretty fickle towards these stocks if they don't, or these companies if there's not progress. But I would say that response makes it feel like there's a little bit less go-to-market hesitancy, at least from the institutional side of things. But definitely something to watch for sure.
And definitely a big difference if you're owning the stock or if you're owning options, you're owning warrants that have a time value where you're dependent on a certain timeline being hit in terms of the go-to-market generating revenue. So, yeah,
No, certainly.
anyone who's invested in those options should be careful of timelines.
No, and 100%. I mean, that's a great call out. Obviously, we are not. This is not financial advice, as the disclaimer goes. But also, just moreover, this is obviously something that does have questions to it. It hasn't been done in 80 or over 80 years of qualifying a new aircraft by the FAA or a new type of aircraft. So I think that trying to guess specifically on timing, to certain options, Godspeed and happy hunting to those playing that game. I'm looking more long term, and there's instruments to put a little bit more leverage, but at longer dated timelines, so to speak. So everybody just be careful out there. Is all I could say.
Yeah, stay safe. And Travis, I mean, you've outlined a few bullet points regarding the future in Dubai. So how about we just go through these, starting with the 6-year exclusive RTA contract to operate air taxis in Dubai?
Sure. Yeah, I think the earnings call was straightforward. Joby posted a lot about it. But what is the next step is Dubai. So to the lead bullet there is the 6-year exclusive, and I think at the time. There's several earnings call where people question, what does that mean? Does that actually mean that the other competitor that's in the space cannot go there? And I think there was a few questions around that. Now it seems to be pretty solidified that Joby does in fact actually, it wasn't just a play on words where Joby could only do air taxis, but you could call it eVTOL charters, and somebody else would have that space. More of a commercial rights situation. But I think the 6-year exclusive is just a game changer, right? Everything's trending, on track. Obviously, timing we won't know exactly, but 6 years in Dubai. I mean, if you just extrapolate, how many planes does Joby plan to make? Even if you get conservative numbers, you get to a fairly large fleet size where you could have, 30, 40, 50 aircraft in Dubai, if not much more. And some still in the States, or we may even see a manufacturing facility there. But 6 years, I think people kind of sleep on that one, just like they sleep on the Delta deal, which is 5 years, I believe, but starts once you actually launch service. So Joby's not on any pinch in terms of timing that way.
And then the next point is the regulatory engagement from the GCAA leadership. So that's the regulating body in Dubai.
Correct. Yes. So GCAA is the regulator that'll look over Dubai, but also Abu Dhabi and some of the other Emirates. So they're actually the UAE, component of that, and then we have the RTA as well, which is specific to Dubai. But in both of those entities that we know now have been making, at least this year so far, both the Joby team has flown to UAE to visit them and speak through the process, but also they have come to Marina. And that was something that was posted, I think mostly on LinkedIn, and then later onto X. But really exciting. I don't think they're going to be flying across the planet to just come and have tea. They're obviously having a conversation about what this looks like. And I think Jobin was is always very protective in how he speaks about things, but he called out a few times how much that the GCAA is leaning in. And I'm sure as much for them as Joby, it's an exciting thing for their country and their people, and they want to do it right. So,
yeah. And that leads us to the 2026 commercial launch plan.
Yes. I mean, obviously, my current target, and this is just looking at their statements, things that they've said. I think I'm hopeful and optimistic that something in the first half of 2026 happens, with a paying customer. How that ramps up or looks like, they'll do some media event and this, that, and the other. So I think those specifics, we're going to have to unfortunately wait and see a little bit on how they roll that out. But I know that you and I are excited to see that, but curious what your thoughts are on 2026, what you heard today, kind of timelines on things. I think today yesterday, separated that, Dubai and the United States are two separate markets and two different timelines. So I thought that was a good thing, but curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah. It's two different markets, and it's good, of course, if Joby does have to do additional financing, that they then already have a proof of concept that they can already exactly showcase how the business will work. So I think even if you have a delay in the US with the FAA, I mean, there's been some different timelines online and rumors. It's good to have Dubai absolutely critical to showcase, just because don't forget, as much as we believe in this company, there's still quite a few people out there that question whether an aircraft can fly with the electric propulsion system. So that's something that definitely, and the same goes for us. I mean, I think talking about is one thing, but when you are in Dubai, you use the Uber Skyride app. That's going to be quite a game changer in also visualization. And that's going to create a lot of publicity for Joby and then drive also shareholder engagement.
Certainly, yeah, no, and it's seeing is believing, right? And once we have that opportunity, everybody will to see in Dubai and what the economics can be for the business, and some return if there is additional capital that's needed to scale up here in the States.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
talking about visibility, I mean, we've got two partners in Dubai, Skyports, who are building the DXB vertiport in Dubai, and then we've got the JetX partnership, and both have been pretty quiet after the initial announcement. Any thoughts?
yes, I mean, it's actually something that I think is quite exciting. Obviously, Skyports, we've been following the building. Some of the Reddit crew has been really great about getting some satellite images and just updates. My brother takes some pictures that we got to share, so that was really good. Obviously that is trending quickly. That's only been a couple months, and the piling's already in, columns are going up, so feel really good about the Skyports partnership. But the JetX side, I just don't think is really talked about that much, and I we can kind of bleed into the next topic as well. But the southern airport there at DFC there in Dubai, people don't realize is going to DXB, the current airport, is going to be decommissioned, and everything is going to move south, and that's to an airport that is much larger in size, like 5x. But in particular, JetX's base, their main base in Dubai, happens to be at that airport. So the volume of passengers that they're aiming for there is, I believe, over a little bit over a quarter of a billion people annually. And so just the amount of traffic that you're going to see from the JetX partnership, obviously, and hopefully that'll be an air taxi capacity, but JetX with private aviation there at that FBO, they're going to be catering to a little bit different of a clientele. And so I think we might even see from Joby in Dubai that the charter business is something which Joby has never explicitly, that I've come across in all my years, have said the word charter or spoken about it. But I think my goodness, if we can get the JetX side of things at the new airport pumping, and plus they're going to have to be there anyway. It doesn't look like the vertiport will be ready for the summer, and if Joby says that there's flights going to be there, I think that JetX partnership, we might see a little bit news of that coming up here.
Yeah, and this new airport is not just going to be a new airport, it's going to be the largest airport in the world as of now, with 6 runways, about 500 gates. So it's going to be the largest airport in the world. So that's if you want to start somewhere, the place to be.
It's a decent market to start with. It's a decent market to start with. And I think the other big thing, that we'll see, it was very interesting that was said on the call. I believe it was Jobin, but their reference was, we're packing up the plane and sending it to Dubai, excuse me. And so that sounded pretty, current in terms of having that happen. So, I think the other thing to be on the lookout for is if we see anything about the infrastructure there being installed, at the new airport, because obviously the vertiport's not going to be ready, or we might even see, the partnership that they never said explicitly where they were going to be landing on the Palm Jumeirah, for instance. So I think there's maybe some more infrastructure that we'll hear about on that side of things.
Yeah, and then talking about infrastructure, one of the one highlights was expanding the manufacturing facility in Marina. So do we have already numbers in terms of aircraft per week, per month, per year due to this expansion?
Well, as far as what they've put out so far, I think we're still at the 25 per year out of Marina run rate, excuse me, because that was just from them upgrading the current pilot production line and then expanding. The new facility that's doubling the space, it won't just be for manufacturing, there'll also be offices. And then something else that was interesting from the call was that the confirmation that next month, so in June 2025, that Joby will get, the keys turned over to them. The building will be signed off, all the permits and everything. But it was mentioned that the CAE would be delivering the full-scale simulator there. So we know that that'll be obviously a crucial component of the pilot training, and without pilots, can't start service. So I think that, it'll be just as much as manufacturing, but even if at 25 planes, if we can do 25 planes next year, for instance, right, and they were all in Dubai by the end of 2026, my goodness, the story gets really exciting, and that doesn't even scratch the surface of Dayton. So.
Yeah, Dayton, Ohio, the second location that's currently being developed. We don't have a timeline yet on when that's going to go into production now.
No, they did confirm though that they're starting to, bring in some of the equipment and machinery, and that'll be for parts already at the not necessarily the new build site in Dayton, but the USPS facility that they took over. That's essentially directly connected to the Dayton International Airport. So
okay,
yeah, exciting times. I question for you, Arna, just as a takeaway. We're coming up to the midpoint of 2025. It's kind of crazy. At the turn of the year, we were just waiting for an announcement for Joby, since we hadn't heard anything since December. But how do you feel in terms of timelines, just as people are listening and looking forward? It's only essentially 6-7 months until we're at 2026. So how do you feel timing wise? Maybe probability or chance that you think that we don't have somebody on that aircraft outside of a pilot flying in Dubai. What are your thoughts?
As a shareholder, long-term game. If you ask me about my warrants, I'm a bit more concerned. The warrants expire in August 2026, so you will see the time value coming off. And then any delay within that 12 months final period is going to hit the warrants extremely hard. So as a warrant holder, probably de-risking next step for me as a shareholder. Yeah, as difficult as it is, I have to remind myself and everybody else, yes, it's really tough, but it's also tough for everybody else. And there was a nice video on YouTube about Stellantis, which is the production partner of Archer. Archer being Trevor's favorite peer within the Joby group. Huh?
Yes.
And if you see that video on what challenges Stellantis is currently facing, and that they're even looking to kind of demerge the whole business. As a reminder, Stellantis, the auto company with the Chrysler and Renault and Fiat, so France, Italy, and the US teaming up to form one big giant automotive company, and that's gonna probably be quite a challenge for Archer to scale production and to not have that strong support compared to Joby. So however difficult and hard it is, the chances are very high that Joby is going to cross the finish line first, and it's going to be ever so more harder for others to follow suit, because Joby has this great setup and this great partner landscape.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it on the head. It is hard to have this patience, but zooming out in a year from now, from today, we kind of know either they figured it out in Dubai or we're a little bit pushed back, right? So we know at least that's kind of the clock, not to put a specific time on it, but I think anybody watching the story, feels good about that. And to what you highlighted about Stellantis and their partner in the eVTOL space, we've said it before and we'll say it again. The Toyota partnership with Joby, it's not like they're one of the partners. They're the founding partner. They're in for almost $1 billion. Scaling manufacturing is how this business becomes what everybody thinks it could be. That's the only way. It's not just because the plane's cool or it's electric or quiet or whatever. It really will just come down to scaling manufacturing. And so, great to bring up that, unfortunately, Stellantis is having this trouble. But, if their business is hurting, they're probably not going to be in a rush to invest in a new manufacturing line. I mean, we saw that Archer opened that plant in Georgia, but we haven't seen anything else from them there. They still don't have a piloted flight that we know about. There's some pictures of a new plane, 703 Alpha X-ray, but doesn't seem like that's flown yet. So anyway, it's a tough space. Obviously, Joby is trying to do something that hasn't been done before, as long as amongst hundreds of other companies. And Joby's, not only leading the pack with testing, with their partnerships, the partner landscape, as you said, I think very exciting times ahead for the Joby camp, and hopefully the whole industry can grow and mature. But this is not just some app on a phone. This is people in the air. This is hardware. This is manufacturing. This is very difficult. And so, the patience is just as hard, maybe harder, but the upside, I think we're all going to be happy campers, as they say here, in a little bit of time. So, anything else,
Once
Arne, to
they start
close?
regular service, I mean, it's a no-brainer given social media and how visual this is, and people will be posting that online, that Joby doesn't need to worry about market awareness. I think that's a no-brainer. So that's they will not have to pay for promotion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think they'll have to worry about a huge marketing budget, and as you said, social media will really make this pick up. But also, it looks like there's a question from somebody here. Curious if you could delve into S4's potential as a fractional ownership platform. Interesting, like NetJets, in terms of boosting accessibility for folks who might want more private ownership of the platform. I don't know. I mean, I think it's the possibilities are endless of what revenue streams that Joby can extract from not just the aircraft, but the service overall. But Arne, I don't know. Your thoughts on fractional ownership of a Joby? I mean, I know you've joked about you'd love to have one over there in Switzerland.
Probably not a priority when it comes to liability. I mean, for Joby, in the initial start of the service, it's going to be absolutely crucial to have the highest level of safety, which is why they're looking at a pool of ex-Delta pilots, for example, who've got the full 5,000, 10,000 hours experience already under their belt. So I would be surprised if this would be something available at the early stage, given the fact that you want the highest level of security, which you can only achieve if you have kind of full control end to end on operations.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's right. And I think that'll be something that shows also to just the discipline of the management will be, once they do get the TC approval, to be clever and be prudent about where they there's obviously risk to operating all of this financially and otherwise. So just to be clever how they deploy, and I think that was great that Paul broke down finally. Pretty clearly too, that there's three revenue streams for Joby: direct sales, kind of a lease situation model, and then Joby operating directly. So exciting times ahead.
I think it's a no-brainer that if you have high net worth individuals and you have exclusive real estate somewhere, that this kind of transportation will be part of the deal. That's probably going to be the standard at some point. When that's going to happen, we'll see. Especially given Europe, for example, if you take the transportation here from Switzerland to Italy to Lake Como on a weekend, where everyone just has to pass through the same Gotthard tunnel. Who knows when regulation will pass here, and if it will pass anytime soon. For now, IATA has not made any plans public, and if you follow what happened with the Volocopter, they got sold off to a Chinese car company now for 10 million. Lilium had to file for administration. As of now, it doesn't look like Europe is really leading the pack here on setting the scene for eVTOL.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%, and obviously, that market and part of the world much better than me. I think UK, just with them being separate from the EU, maybe there's some, little bit of daylight there. I think the UK, just with the Virgin partnership and whatnot, maybe there's a little bit more progress. But yeah, as you said, I think pretty tough on that side of things. I think we'd probably see one of the Asian markets, Japan or South Korea, open before we get anything in Europe.
So Travis, how about some thoughts again on the Q1 2025 highlights, starting with the pilot on board transition?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think that shows is, look, Joby is when you start putting human beings up in those things, it does add another layer, even though they've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of remote flight tests and thousands of simulated flight tests. But I think it just goes to show the progress that the company has, and they're never going to be a big flashy company. It's just the nature of Jobin, it's the nature of the culture there. But nothing actions speak louder than words, and nothing speaks louder than the pilot sitting in that seat, taking the controls, and everybody can see that now. There's no people were questioning that Joby can't do a full flight. It's edited videos, blah blah blah. That was just all noise. You could see it on the trackers, but very excited to see the full transition flight, as well as the flight where they were testing some of the flight failure modes. And I think that was just important. Zach Reeder, who's one of the chief test pilots, and got to meet him when I was here in LA, but just a really good person. But when you see him talk about flying this plane and putting it into a failure mode and it being successful, I mean, he got emotional in the video, and I think that's what kind of speak to of what we have. These pilots are risking their life and limb as in this test program. As much as confidence as we have in Joby, they're the ones with ass and seats. So anyway, yeah, excited to see that they finally publicized that.
Yeah, and then the second Q1 25 highlight was the second consecutive quarter of record certification progress. It is a bit hard to really see how this is counting down, how many months are left. It is in a way still a black box we're looking at, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what are your thoughts on it? I'm kind of there's a lot to break down there.
Intransparent that one day we'll have certification. It's not that you can kind of time this for anyone looking to buy options, saying, yeah, okay, if I now look at the progress from last quarter to this quarter, I can kind of nail it down. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, and it's definitely not linear. Anybody looking at it in that sense, I think, especially if they're using it for options and whatnot, I would risk against that or hedge against that. But I think what's promising is that we see they're making progress. It is consistent, and what is on that chart, and I think we even may have different lines of sight on this, but I don't think that we're going to ever see that chart full or even near full until we may never ever actually even see it full more than once they announce it, and that the following earnings call just as highlight that they finally achieved this momentous piece of the puzzle. But what I think is important is less what's necessarily those that chart, which it's helpful context, but just to know Joby does have the FAA engaged. The FAA is there in Marina. We know that Joby's hiring the FAA pilots. That was something that was on the call. It wasn't exactly clear. That Joby was saying, our pilots fly, and then we're going to have the FAA pilots come in. But I think some of that hopefully will be these FAA DER rated pilots, where Joby can do some of that internally, and maybe the next time we see that bar, it goes to stage 4 is 80%. Stage 5 is whatever 10-15, and then the next time we see it, it's TC. That's how I kind of look at it, because it's just too much anxiety, too much pressure, too much on the line for this unveil for them to put it out there just in a chart. I don't think they're going to represent all their hard work of the last 15 plus years in that sense. That's my gut on it.
I think that's a good final statement. 15 years, good reminder of hard work that Joby has put into getting where they are today as the leader in the North America eVTOL space. So, Travis, any final thoughts from your side?
No, just thank everybody for listening. You as well, Arne. And this is quite a journey, along the way. But when I think about the bigger scheme of things, as you said, 15 years in the making, and we're down to counting months at this point. And I think that's a pretty exciting time to be involved with Joby. So
yeah, Travis, thanks for
hunting.
sharing all your insights and covering this amazing story with Joby.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, Arne.
Take care. Cheers. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.